Good morning and welcome to Ask the Expert. I'm Joe Taylor. This morning, another in the ongoing series of programs presented by the Northwest Regional Key Program for Quality Early Learning. The program, through the Northwest Institute of Research, oversees a grant from the Office of Child Development and Early Learning at the Pennsylvania Department of Human Services and the Department of Education. The goal of the program is to improve the outcomes for young children as they prepare for school. John Poza from the Pennsylvania Key is the host of the program and is with us throughout the series. John, who do we have on the phone this morning?
Well, good morning, Joe. This morning we have Sue Polojac, who is the Race to the Top Director for the Pennsylvania Office of Child Development and Early Learning. For those who may not be familiar with Race to the Top, Pennsylvania was one of a handful of states to have received, in Pennsylvania's case, nearly $52 million in federal funding under the Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge, which helps build on the successes to provide more services for at-risk children in Pennsylvania to close the high-quality early learning opportunities achievement gap. So welcome to the program, Sue.
Thank you. Thank you for having me today.
Thank you for coming on. You know, there's been so many exciting things under Race to the Top that you have been working on and I've been a part of as well. For those listeners who may not be as familiar with what Race to the Top is all about, can you kind of help us out and explain the type of work that's taking place?
Sure. So Pennsylvania, as you said, received a Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge grant in December of 2013. Again, we were awarded almost $52 million to be used to support children in the Commonwealth over the course of 4 years. Now, we are in the final year of the grant, and some amazing work has been done through the Office of Child Development and Early Learning and its business partners. And I wanted to just share some of the highlights of the Race to the Top Early Learning Challenge grant with you today. Under Pennsylvania's grant, we have 9 projects that we had put forth in our application. And what I'd like to do today is just go through each one of the grants, each one of the projects, and give you some highlights. And then at the end, kind of give you where we're at right now and some of the things that we will be doing to tie up the Race to the Top grant.
That sounds fair, because I know there's so much involved.
There is a lot.
And we want to try to cover them, in the time that we have. So go ahead.
Right. So the first project under Race to the Top is the Early Childhood Education Community Innovation Zone grants. And a lot of these projects were specific to the grant application. So of all of the states that were awarded Race to the Top grants, they had to follow these criteria. And so in Pennsylvania, we have 50 CIZs, that's what we call them, the Community Innovation Zones, across the Commonwealth. In 2014, there were 12 grants awarded to communities across the Commonwealth with exemplary programs in places that were willing to mentor the Phase 2 grantees. The following year, 38 additional grants were awarded in 2015. And so those grantees receive intensive supports and local grants to include to increase family engagement, strengthen relationships between early childhood providers and school districts to build that birth to third grade alignment. We in Pennsylvania actually call it the P3 alignment. We're thinking about prenatal to third grade children through this work. We also are very interested in strengthening the community collaborations because we know that's where all the magic happens. I'm so fortunate to be able to go across the Commonwealth and meet with these CIZs and just other community organizations that have really identified the challenges in their communities, and they've been able to leverage funds not only from OCDEL but from community foundations to really provide some amazing opportunities for children and families in their communities.
Right. We actually have grantees. I was going to say we have grantees that are in our local viewing area to the Du Bois area, which I have worked with those grantees in my capacity. Send Clear Child Services, which works with the Clearfield School District, and also the Bradford School District are two of my grantees, and doing tremendous work. But yes, go ahead.
So you're able to see also firsthand of the amazing work that happens in communities.
Right, absolutely.
And there are a lot of struggles out there. We have the 50 CIZs spanned for suburban, rural, and urban areas. So there's also, we have School Readiness Consulting, who has been doing an amazing job of evaluating the community innovation zones and conducting a family engagement study. And so all of those things that are happening around the evaluation process, we're going to be so anxious to see the outcome of that evaluation.
And just to clarify for folks who may not be familiar, most of the projects of the Community Innovation Zone grants in the local communities deal with early literacy and working intensively with parents and communities to support early literacy in children to make sure that they're properly prepared for school, correct?
Oh, definitely, definitely. That is one of the main focuses.
Right.
And there is such a wide variety of the level of relationships. Some of these folks, the first 12 CIZs that were awarded, they really already had a strong foundation built, so we needed to expand on their already existing relationships. And then for the second 38, they were varying. There were some folks that were just starting out collaborating, but just had some really good ideas of ways to collaborate and build relationships. There are some of the community innovation zones that actually work with the local prisons for families to come together and do some literacy activities. I mean, there's such a wide variety, and at the end, I'll give some websites if that's
okay, fine, sure,
for folks to read up more on that.
Sue, could you explain in layman's language why Race for the Top and the work that it does is important to children and families, and also to the general public as well here in the Commonwealth? Well,
we were very fortunate in 2013 to be awarded these federal funds. Because we all know that, there's through a state budget, there's, so much money that is awarded to early childhood. And so through the funding of federal grants that a state receives, they can they just have the opportunities to expand those opportunities. And one of our biggest conversations right now is how do we take the work that we've done through OCDEL and through Race to the Top funds for sustainability. So how can we take the lessons learned, the relationships built, and expand upon that for the sustainability of the projects? Because we've already started all of these amazing, we've already set the stage or added to the stage. We've scaffolded. There's an early childhood term for you. We've scaffolded the programming that we've already had, and now how can we take it to the next level? So it was just that amount of money that was to give us that extra boost that we needed to provide some amazing opportunities for children and families.
Right. And the thing is, just to clarify, when we talk about the grant and the various programs under it, to reach more at-risk children, we're referring to children, for instance, that are living in low-income families,
yes.
English language learners, children with disabilities and developmental delays, and children experiencing homelessness in some case.
Yes.
So that's primarily the population of children we most want to reach.
Exactly. And through the work of Race to the Top, we have had some really great successes in making connections for families, providing opportunities for them, giving programs the support that they need through professional development, and just some tools to add to their tool belt to assure that they have what they need to support these most at-risk children in the Commonwealth.
Can I ask the obvious question? 4 years from December 2013 would be December 2017. What happens after December 2017?
Yes, so we are in the final 6 months of the official grant. But states were awarded the opportunity to apply for what is called a no-cost extension. And so any of the unused federal funds that you had, you would be able to have another year to finish the work that you had already started, because with so many projects and such a large amount of money, we really wanted to make sure that we did it right, because it's almost like this is your opportunity to elevate the work that you've already done, and it just takes a lot of time to make sure that you're doing it right. And so we'll be putting in for our no-cost extension here in the next couple weeks, and then hopeful that we will receive the no-cost extension, and then we will be able to extend some of that work through 2018.
Right. Now, Sue, I know we touched on the Community Innovation Zone grants. That's part of Race to the Top, but I know there's several other categories of where this funding is being used, and I want to make sure we get at least touch on them before our time's up. So you want to cover some of the others?
Right. So the second project was our Keystone Stars QRS revisioning process. And Keystone Stars is the quality rating system that we use here in Pennsylvania it's an early learning program quality rating system that has been shown to improve quality in child care since its development in 2002. So our QRS system is in its 14th year, and it has been seen as one of the most advanced QRS systems around in the country. And so now, with children are changing, communities are changing, families are changing, we needed to revision what that quality rating system looked like. And so we had to think about how the system of early learning in Pennsylvania as a whole was inclusive of the diverse early learning programs and address the question of what is possible for children, families, and providers. And so Pennsylvania went through great lengths to have stakeholder engagement. We actually had what we called the Keystone Stars QRS Revisioning Think Tank, and they were a diverse group of stakeholders from across the Commonwealth, and really to come up with the creation of a new framework for QRS, for Keystone Stars. And we actually just rolled out Keystone Stars in the last couple of weeks, the revisions, and the actual process will start July 1st. And there is so much to talk about our revisioning process, but what we had, and it's summed up in one of my favorite quotes from Fred Rogers. And the wise words that guided the think tank were, "Deep and simple is far more essential than shallow and complex." And that was really quote. The guiding thoughts of how we were revisioning Keystone Stars in the Commonwealth.
Okay, so I know there are so many other areas under Race to the Top that they're doing such great work with. The comprehensive assessment, as well as the measuring outcomes and progress. If you could, for our listeners, we can explain a little bit about how some of the outcomes that we've been seeing to know that they're making an impact.
Right. So one of the projects under Race to the Top was to look at our Pennsylvania early learning standards for children. And in Pennsylvania, we have learning standards from birth through second grade. They really are the foundation upon which all state-funded early childhood programs build quality. And so through Race to the Top, we were able to revise the infant toddler, the pre-kindergarten standards in 2014, and then in 2016, the revised kindergarten, first grade, and second grade standards were aligned. And teachers use the early learning standards really to guide, to create the lessons that they're using for children in their classrooms, and then also whenever they are assessing children. And
right.
So we really think about assessment in Pennsylvania as to guide practice and to really individualize for children.
Absolutely. Especially when we have situations where, there's a lot of diversity in a classroom, of diversity in many, many different ways, to basically be able to have individualized instruction in that classroom while yet not impacting the classroom as a whole.
Right. And what's so important for children is to be able to have those, those really strong social emotional skills. So when they go to kindergarten, they have the self-regulation needed. They have the ability to separate from their parents. They're able to hang up their coats and function independently.
Right.
Be able to have those relationships with their peers.
Absolutely. There's also a workforce development component to Race to the Top, isn't there?
Yes, there is, and so that has also been a really big discussion around Race to the Top. And in that project, it has many arms to it, as I call it.
Right.
I think what we're really proud of is the work that the strides that we have made with higher education, with institutions of higher education in Pennsylvania. We were able to offer out to any institute of higher learning in the Commonwealth to align their coursework to the core body of knowledge. So that is in Pennsylvania.
Right.
We asked them to align their preschool coursework and their infant toddler coursework. And so we were excited about that. We're also thinking about how to expand the workforce here in Pennsylvania in the way of credentialing. And so there are a few opportunities for educators. They can get a CDA, which is a CDA. They can get an associate degree. They can get a bachelor's degree. They can get a master's degree. So really thinking about ways with higher education that we can increase the
skills of the workforce.
The skills of the workforce in a non-traditional way. Early childhood providers, they could work from 8 in the morning till 6 in the evening. That doesn't leave a whole lot of time to be thinking about how am I going to go to school and things like that. And so we've been thinking about some innovative ways that we can put forth some money for institutes of higher learning to think about that. Right.
And part of that workforce development system is a kind of a fine-tuning of the professional development registry that's part of all of this work that allows, it's a comprehensive way to allow folks in the early learning field register for classes, find out what the classes are that are available in their areas and schedule themselves and keep track of their own registry of courses towards the education that they're trying to obtain.
Exactly. In Pennsylvania, we've really been thinking about, we want folks to receive professional development for credit. Historically, it's been you get 2 hours of credit, but it's not credit-bearing in an institution of higher education. And so we've been really thinking about how we can change that. And also we've had some stakeholder engagement. We've had some work groups about enhancing the PD registry. And so that is in the works right now. And we're really excited to be able to eventually roll that out. That is a huge undertaking. We did it a few years ago, but thinking again now in the terms of workforce development, just as you had explained, and gathering some data that we didn't have before around the workforce in early childhood education. So that's all to come as well.
We have about 4 or 5 minutes left, Sue. I wanted to ask you, out of all of the work, and I'm not to put you on the spot here, but but of all the projects, because I know there's so much that takes place under Race to the Top. But what would you say if you were to look at one area and you see, at least at this point, where we've been really making some of our strongest inroads? What would you say it would be?
You know what, John? I'm going to be honest. I can't really pick one.
Right.
Because all of the work with Race to the Top really does connect with all of the work of OCDEL.
Right.
And so we really want to be able to think about the integration of work and how it is all interwoven together. Because we need to maximize the resources that we have to assure that we are creating the best system
Right.
For children, families, and communities. And so that's that's always at the forefront. At the end of the day, have the decisions that we made on behalf of the children. That's what we're thinking about. These decisions that we're making are going to make an impact for 10 years down the road.
Absolutely.
And so we have to think about the integration of the work and best practice at all times.
And we can never forget, it's all for the kids, of course.
It is.
And
obviously for the providers and the families.
Absolutely.
Our early childhood educators doing a tremendous amount of work for long hours and low pay.
Yeah.
And so we just have to give kudos to to all of the early care and education providers in Pennsylvania for the work that they do.
Right. And if I may say so, I mean, because I work closest with the Community Innovation Zone portion, and which is kind of like seeing what's happening in specific neighborhoods and communities, almost like at the grassroots level with the collaboration that takes place. And I can see firsthand the influence that these many projects have had in their communities. And so sometimes that's what you have to really see as how this is impacting children in those given communities. And I can vouch for the fact that not only is it reaching the children and the children are benefiting from these projects, but getting those families who may have not otherwise thought they had a part in all of this, giving them the skills to work with their children and providing the assistance and being involved with those families and engaging them in their children's education at an early age to help them in being ready for school and learning all those the intricacies of learning to read and with literacy in general. So yeah, I can definitely see it, and in reaching more and more of that vulnerable population of at-risk children, which oftentimes is difficult to reach. So yeah, that I can see it happening, and I just to vouch for those who see it, and even for those in the community, if they share some of those stories. If you're something happening in your school district, in your particular community that's really benefiting children, you may want to ask the people that are involved, what is it how did this all come about? How did this project happen? Chances are they'll probably tell you that the work that is being done through the Office of Child Development and Early Learning and from those hardworking child care providers, they're the reason. They're the reason.
Right.
So, Sue, thank you so much. I mean, the time has flown, and there was just so much information that was provided. But I know you're doing a fantastic job with Race to the Top, and I want to thank you for being on the program, and hope to have you again.
Thanks for having me. I really appreciate it.
Thanks, Sue.
And that's our program for today. We'll be back in 2 weeks at the same time. In the meantime, you can go online to learn more at papromiseforchildren.com. For John Poza and the Northwest Regional Key Program for Quality Early Learning, I'm Joe Taylor. Thank you for listening, and have a great day.